Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from Entitled People. Story 1 today is by Invincible Comics. Entitled owner stalks me because I don't want our dogs to meet again. This just happened and I'm honestly kind of stressed about how to deal with this. For context, I own a 10-month-old Doberman puppy. When I just got her, she met a local German Shepherd who scared her to death by standing over her in an extremely dominant way while she was screaming out of fear. I told the owner to call his dog back, but apparently the dog wouldn't listen if he tried, and she would just have to learn. Obviously, I avoided the guy after this, and there was another instance where I made her sit and look at me while he walked past, and the man just started yelling at me that my dog wouldn't amount to anything, etc. The way he said all this just has me perplexed. I can't imagine being this upset over me just minding my business, and I cannot imagine having the guts to act this way. Now to what happened today. I was walking my puppy back home and I could see down the road this guy and his German Shepherd were walking away. No problem, I just crossed the road. The man then also crosses the road a few minutes later, now walking the direction I'm going, and when he sees me cross the road again, he stops and waits near my building, clearly trying to make eye contact with me even though I'm still far away. Listen, there's absolutely no reason for this guy to stand there waiting while staring at me. He is clearly waiting for me so he can yell at me again, or maybe even send his dog up to me because I just have a strong suspicion that that's what he wants to do. I walk him across the little playground in front of my house as it was the only other way I could go to avoid him, but next time I may not be so lucky. As soon as he lost sight of me, he continued walking, clearly annoyed. The owner is an old man who clearly has never had a reason to fear anyone, and I don't think anything I can say will make the situation better, but will definitely make it worse. He also clearly has nothing better to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if he loves seeing his dog being dominant over others. The reason I don't let our dogs figure it out is because this dog is twice her size and she's terrified of German Shepherds, loves all other dogs. The dog is also extremely dominant and has no compassion for others. Kinda like the owner. Lol. Anyway, I'm dreading running into this guy again, not sure what to do. I will do anything to protect my dog, and I would have no issue letting the guy know that, but I'd rather avoid escalating the situation if possible, even if the guy is doing everything he can to escalate it. Not everybody in the world is sane. What kind of person tells you your dog is not going to amount to anything? You're not raising some sort of champion dog here that's going to do all sorts of stunts, and he's not raising one either that's doing that. I don't understand why he's trying to force this interaction between your dogs. It makes no sense. When you're walking, you keep your dog near you, close. They listen to you and they see you as the pack leader, then they don't have to be afraid of bigger dogs. We own 2 small older dogs that are about 14 years old, and one of them is full of anxiety, and she used to think she was the pack leader, and so she was more aggressive towards other dogs. She would charge at them when I started walking her. My other dog is a boy dog that is obsessed with food, so he's a little chunk, rotund thing, and he is adorable, fluffy little lion dog, and he's so cute, but he's completely indifferent to other dogs that come up to him. She, on the other hand, it's taken some getting used to with her. She doesn't do nearly as much of the aggressive stuff as she used to. I've kind of broken her of it, but it took a long time. I would say like at least 5 months of walking with her to make her understand she doesn't have to protect us, that I will take care of us. As long as she's with me, she's safe. I am the pack leader. Regardless, the guy that you're dealing with sounds like a bit of a crazy person. You don't force dogs to interact with each other. They have to kind of do it on their own. And this was a puppy. So this little dog has not really learned that you're the pack leader yet, and she's not the protector. And so she gets really scared when there's other dogs around. His dog doesn't sound like it's very well trained if it's going to be running up to your dog and standing dominantly over them. Our next story is by Mountain Mark. I don't understand this kind of entitlement at all. Lack of basic self-preservation. My daughter, 32 female, has a live-in boyfriend who's 34, and the father of our grandchild, of whom we have custody, has a level of entitlement I frankly cannot understand. I'm just left with my mouth gaping open at his attitude. He moved to our state 5+ years ago, followed our daughter after he was evicted from his family's home for being a deadbeat. Both his mother and aunt have kicked him out and will not allow him to return. His mother kept his dog and kicked her son out. That's funny to me. Since his arrival, he's not held a regular job for more than a week. His most recent example was him working for a grocery store in the deli. He quit after a week when they passed him over for an assistant manager's spot. A week! He started many jobs in the past 5 years and quits nearly immediately after they offend him in some way, which usually is a trumped-up reason based on some slight offense, mostly not treating him like the royalty he thinks he is. Another example, friend of a friend got him a job on a construction site. He just had to arrive with safety boots and he'd be guaranteed to have a job holding a sign that said "slow stop" on it. Just stand there and hold the sign. He missed the start date. However, he lucked out as the FOAF involved was sick that day and they rescheduled to start for the following week. Boyfriend didn't show. No job for you. He's done some DoorDash and similar gig work, but will only do it if his girlfriend goes along so she can do the jump out and get the drop package part of the gig. He just wants to drive. This meaning he is only willing to work when she isn't at work. This is now moot since the cars have been repossessed. Daughter later lost her $25 an hour job and is now cleaning houses, Airbnb, apartments as a gig. She's their sole income source. At one point, he got into a state program that gave you a place to live, gave you drug, alcohol, and employment counseling, meds, and work to integrate you into society. He didn't last a week after he refused to participate in group counseling sessions, and of course, participation is a requirement for the program. There was a time where our daughter was in jail or rehab where he didn't have a place to live and was living on the street. He'd rather do that than get a job. He also refused to stay in a shelter. It was beneath him. There's certainly a victim component here. Nothing is ever his fault. Everything happens to him, and it's all terribly unfair. He has to be the center of attention. He left a play date with his kid after they weren't paying enough attention to him. There's an entire history here that rapidly gets into TLDR territory. Drugs, DV charges, child neglect, TPOs, etc. They're all relatively minor misdemeanor charges and issues, the kind of things the judge gives you probation for. He's also failing to participate in any of his probation requirements, like therapy or drug testing, and is likely to be violated soon. Most of what seems to be missing to me is basic self-preservation. If I meet my probation requirements, I don't go to jail. If I work this week, I can buy food. He seems to lack any awareness of cause and effect. For the record, he spent about a week in jail after the DV thing and was calling his girlfriend multiple times a day to bail him out. He doesn't like jail, but won't do anything to avoid it. She did bail him out and he missed his court date afterward. I just cannot understand that he doesn't seem to understand that if you work, then you can eat and sleep in a bed. His avoidance of employment or any form of responsibility is like some sort of compulsion or mental illness. There's nothing rational about it. It strains my liberal brain and the part that says, give people a hand up, not a hand out. He only wants the handout. Any hand up is refused. Thanks for reading my rant. Apologies for the ellipses and parenthetical remarks. I write like my ADD brain thinks, which is with lots of parentheses. You write exactly as I do. Anytime that I'm typing to anybody in a game, I put things in parentheses afterwards that are completely useless. And I've had people I know get irritated with that about me in the past. But what can you do? You can't please everyone. Yeah, this person sounds super entitled. This may be one of those people that sees themselves as a depressed millionaire. They are somebody who believes that they are entitled to all sorts of money, and they're just waiting for it to fall into their lap. He's not going to be broke forever in his mind. He's just going to get millions someday through some obscure means. There are people that actually believe that, and it causes them to stall themselves for any sort of progress. Not making excuses for him, I'm just saying he may be that kind of personality. Our last story today is by someone who deleted their username. Rich people, lol, so out of touch. My partner's sister is a model who dates a famous comedian who makes millions each show or weekend they perform. My partner's parents are millionaires who are staying with us for 2 months, but the model comes over periodically. The funny thing is the model was crying about how her nanny, which her and her million-dollar comedian partner flew in from overseas, arrived a few hours late one night, and the model was so tired and upset that the nanny was late, and she had to look after the kid herself. Entitled model came over to our house to complain about it for hours, and everyone was so sorry for her, surrounding her, comforting her. She was in tears. Such a difficult life. Imagine all those single mothers who can't afford a nanny at all. Anyway, she then complains about keeping all her money in her savings account this past year, as she could have afforded a house before but can't now, and it's so annoying that she had all that money in her account this whole time. Meanwhile, I'm here after a cancer diagnosis at 32, unemployed, super anxious, in debt and barely able to function in job interviews, trying to be hospitable. Yet I'm still judged for not having a job and drinking too much. Also told to get on with it by the model's mother after my diagnosis, even though the model's mother has never worked hard in her life and has been carried by her psycho husband for the last 30 years. Don't know why I'm posting this. Guess I just feel like a prisoner in my own house. As long as the rich and famous are happy, right? Who cares about the rest of us? Just wanted to vent a bit. Back into my cupboard I go, pretending I don't exist. 1 month to go. 1 month to go to what? That's kind of ominous. I have no idea why you would post that at the end of what you're saying either. It is very true that people who have never actually had to work a job are very out of touch and don't understand what real work is. But suffering is relative. So if you're super rich and you've never suffered and then you have a day that just drains you, you're going to complain about it. That's just how it is. Meanwhile, somebody who is suffering every single day, like you could have an even worse day at some point, and then you would complain about that, but you wouldn't complain about your life generally, because your life is suffering most of the time. It depends on what your level of suffering normally is. Again, I'm not trying to apologize for this person at all. They are rich and out of touch, and they have no idea how good they have it. But their suffering is relative to how they normally suffer, which is not at all. And when they do suffer, everyone is going to hear about it. Anyway, to each their own, and suffering is relative. Our stories for today have come to a close. If you enjoy this content, please click like or subscribe, or you can click the notification bell. It will alert you when new videos drop. Until we meet again, have a remarkable day.